So on the front cover of today's papers, there was a story about the singer Adele. Now I don't really follow Adele. I've no strong views on her either way. But she's one of the best known British singer-songwriters around right now. Anyway, the story was about the fact that she's supposedly been culturally appropriating, and this is because she is a white woman and she uses cornrows in her hair. Which I guess would be deemed to be culturally appropriating black culture. Um, Now, the response to this has been overwhelmingly in favor of Adele, and the narrative has very much been about how ridiculous the outrage is. Um, but that's the point. There was um, people vocalizing on the fact that she shouldn't be appropriating this at the Notting Hill Carnival. Now, interesting, one of those who've came to her defence is the Black MP David Lammy. I'd say interesting because David Lammy is often, he's pretty left wing, and he himself has been accused of race baiting. But he's right about this because he was saying that it's just, I mean, this isn't verbatim, but he was basically just saying the outrage is ridiculous, as has Majid Nawaz and others. Um, I think the whole idea of cultural appropriation is so exaggerated and so, for the most part, ridiculous that it doesn't really deserve attention. But it's just another example of woke intolerance. And that's what it is, it's sheer intolerance. It's basically trying to dictate to other people what they should wear, how they should live. Because if they don't do it in a certain way that is expected, then it's going to be presented in a particular way that is just nonsense. Here's the thing about so-called cultural appropriation. When you really get down to it, we all do it to an extent. I'm actually doing it right now, and I almost hope this offends some people. I don't usually say that, but the whole thing is so ridiculous, and this is what I'm doing. Wearing a Chinese top. I got this when I was in China. It's comfortable, it's nice. I don't wear it often. Actually, it was my birthday yesterday, so that's why I'm wearing it. I like it. I like the colors. It's comfortable. Oh, it's Chinese. Now, by wearing this, do I think I'm a Chinese guy? No, I'm a white guy. I'm a Westerner. But I just like the design. The fact that I think that's yeah. Uh, I just I find it sad how petty some people could be around these things. But here is the thing: if cultural appropriation is taken to mean that it's usually aimed at white people, the white majority taking other cultures. Well, where do you draw the line? If you drive a Toyota, if you if you watch television on I don't know, can't think of an example off the top of my head, but my TV isn't on. I don't know what nationality that is. Um, when you break it down, the way the world is, the world's interconnected. You would be hard pushed to find that everything you have is just British or just American or whatever the case may be. Um, but music, whatever your musical tastes are, does this mean that white people shouldn't appreciate R&B? Um, does it mean that if you enjoy a Chinese takeaway or Indian curry, as many Britons do, that's cultural appropriation? Where do you draw the line with this? It just gets so absurd. If a black person watches a Bollywood film, is he or she appropriating Indian culture? Um, if an Indian person uh, wants to get interested in Chinese medicine, are they appropriating Chinese culture? If I mean, this could just go on and on. And the thing about the cornrows, argument, it's also flawed by the fact there are black women who wear straight hair. So are those black women culturally appropriating white styles? It's total nonsense. Basically, people should be able to wear what they want, and I just think the whole argument is absolute nonsense. And I think it's so sad that people push this. I remember a few years ago, there was a young woman, I believe it was somewhere in the Midwest of the United States, and it was her prom. She decided to wear a Chinese style qipao, that very elegant silk dress. Presumably, she found it attractive and comfortable and so on. She immediately got denounced. She was white. She was culturally appropriating. The interesting thing is those who were complaining weren't Chinese people from China, but American Chinese and others, as if they think they have a right to tell her that she cannot wear a dress that just happens to be of Chinese style. I mean, imagine if white people said, "Oh no, you cannot." I mean, but there's probably nothing more culturally appropriate than William Shakespeare and the works of Shakespeare. You know, they've been adapted in so many languages, pretty much every language, in fact, around the world. But the we British say, oh, people should stop appropriating Shakespeare because it's something uniquely not even British, but particularly English. Um, no, we're proud of it, and rightly so. Um, Surely it's a good thing. Surely it's the epitome of being open-minded by appreciating other cultures, by taking an interest in other cultures. Because you know what the charge would be if they didn't? I mean, if people didn't do that, oh, well, then you're a supremacist. You think your culture is better. You're only interested in your own culture. So really, you can't win with these woke bigots. You can't win with them. Um, and I think the best approach is, I'd like to say ignore them, but when they get their little tantrums going and they make noise over this, I guess it becomes a story. But the Independent had a headline: when does cultural appropriation go too far? I would say never, or at least rarely. They should be asking the question: when does bullying people over what they are choosing to wear go too far? That should be the real question. So it's disgraceful that Adele is getting attacked over this. Like I say, I'm not a fan of hers. I've no strong views on her either way. But if she's wearing that style, I assume she just liked it. And, I imagine, like a lot of young artists, she's very progressive in her politics. Again, I don't know much about her, but um, this is manufactured outrage. And I think people who push this stuff need to be challenged. Because what I think is a big problem these days is we see woke activists, and I'm using that term because they even describe themselves that way, basically trying to destroy people's reputations and even lives when you get down to it. Celebrities can protect themselves, but ordinary people can't. And they're basically unchallenged. I think too much of the media doesn't do their jobs when it comes to woke outrage because they go along with it. They don't reverse the question and say, well, what gives you a right to tell her or him what they can wear or not? They're not put on the spot, and they should be. They're basically being given a green light to push people around and tell people how they should be. I mean, this is surely the epitome of intolerance. So, if you have a problem with me wearing this Chinese top, bring it on. I like it, and there isn't a damn thing you can do about it. I also think that's important that people who are accused of cultural appropriation stand their ground. Now, is there anything that I would say that where it could be problematic? I guess when it's kind of done as a bit of PR. So maybe if you get a politician that is, for example, Justin Trudeau was criticized when he went to India because he really went overboard on when wearing Indian style attire. Well, he's a Western leader. He just needed to wear a suit and tie. Um, so there are times perhaps when it can appear a bit phony. And I guess there would be occasions where, for example, if you get a white chef who claims to have I don't know, authentic Asian cuisine, and that's being very general, but I know Gordon Ramsay's come under criticism for this. Um, I guess if they're using the term authentic and it isn't, then there'd be valid criticism to be made there. So I suppose that's an occasion when cultural appropriation can be problematic. But the way it is now, we're not talking about authenticity. We're talking about this very narrow minded, almost segregationist idea that only our people are allowed to do that. So if you really are one of those people pushing this cultural appropriation narrative, are you really saying that the only women who should have cornrows are black women? That any other woman who does it, if she's white or Asian, then she's somehow a bad person? Is that what you're saying? Because she likes the style? Are you kidding me? Get over yourselves. If you're so petty that you need to control how what other people choose to do, what their interests are, you're the one with the problem, really. The question of authenticity, like I say, just as that example, if you get a chef that is promoting authenticity and they're not authentic, then okay, that can be exposed. That's a question of honesty. It's a question of what you're selling to the public. It might even be in the public interest. Um, I mean, there's been a bit of a phenomenon with scam artists who go around big cities claiming to be Buddhist monks. And you can see this online where they are then exposed. So I suppose you get that sort of cultural appropriation where people are being fraudulent, dishonest. In that case, I'm all for exposing that and condemning that. But my issue is issues like what's happening to Adele. I mean, this story will blow over because most people see common sense, but like I say, woke bigots, they are very, very controlling people. And I do think it's important that they're stood up to because really, most of cultural appropriation as it is presented these days is a nonsense because we all do it. World's interconnected, chances are everything you own or a good part of it will be produced in another country, particularly in the UK these days. So if you're driving a Toyota, you have an Indian curry, and um, you watch a Hong Kong martial arts film, whatever it might be. That's just a loose example. You're culture appropriating, but who is really going to judge that? Because there's just a lot of nonsense out there, and I think it needs to be challenged. So I'm reassured that the vast majority of the public see common sense with this stuff. But I also think it's troubling that a small minority of people get to push the way around and denounce people. So basically, reasonable people in the music industry need to be standing up for Adele. I hope black artists do. I hope they recognize it's a nonsense. Um, Let me know your thoughts.